I think the main thing that I need to emphasize is that I'm just a normal person, right? Like,
You can go ahead and start.
okay. So I need to emphasize that I'm like a normal person. Like, Android, well, development in general wasn't my first choice. It's just something that I learned to have a passion for. But I always try to emphasize to people that if you have a passion for it, no matter what your background is, you can do it in terms of development. So software is something that I got into halfway through college. I was going to be a pharmacy major, and then total change of heart, picked up programming, loved it, never looked back. But I'm really glad that you guys kind of like took the step to learn a little bit about Android. I think Android's really fun. I think it's a great like system to work under, and I'm really excited to give you guys an insight into it. So that being said, I'd kind of like to get like he was talking about locations, but I'd like to get to know a little bit about like you guys. How many of you are in college, university? Not a whole lot. Is there any more? If y'all being shy, you don't have to be shy. All right. Well, how many of you guys have programmed in the past? Okay, good amount. Some new people, but that's fine. All right. So my computer chose to sleep at the perfect time. So today we're going to be talking about Android development. If any of you guys have any background with Android, or if any of you guys are familiar with Android, you may know that Android, the foundation of it is Java. Java is, I think, the most used language in the world. I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty confident. And then there's JavaScript. Then we have the query languages like JavaScript, and we have the scripting languages like HTML and all that. But then we have the object-oriented languages, which would include like C++, Java, I think Python. But anyway, I love Java. I think Java's great. It's very intuitive once you get used to it. But anyway, that's what the background of Android is all about, at least for Android Studio. You do have some frameworks that allow you to program for mobile using other languages. For example, I know that CodeRGV had a seminar or a workshop on the Ionic framework, and that's based on, I don't know what it's based on, but it's not Java. It's I think it's like for web developers that want to make mobile applications, and you can make Android and iOS. But whenever you're using Android Studio, you have a lot of power, I think. So I'm going to go ahead. I know I have a presentation, kind of lame, but it's just a couple of things that we're going to go over before we actually start getting into the actual application. So y'all are going to kind of get a good idea as to the foundation of making an app through code, through Java, and the use of XML. I'll get into that later. All right. So the first thing that we need to look at is what makes Android different than Java. They both use the language, but why are they different? Well, that's because Java uses a virtual machine that's meant to be across platforms, and that's for like machines like this, and of course a bunch of other hardware, but it's not really meant for mobile. So instead of a Java virtual machine, Android runs on it's called Android Runtime, which has recently replaced Dalvik after KitKat 4.4. So if any of you guys have Android devices, you may know that they use operating system names that are really tasty. They have like KitKat, I think like ice cream sandwich. The newest one is Marshmallow, that's 6.0. And that's only available on a certain number of devices. But it goes in order through letters. So we have, I don't know what the last one was, like Lollipop and then Marshmallow. The last one was Lollipop and it's Marshmallow. The next one's going to come out later. But anyway, so Android Runtime replaced Dalvik. It's essentially a virtual machine that's meant for phones, okay? So the classes are compiled into a specialized format, and then they're run on the Android Runtime, which is on the phone. So that's basically it. And then we have some differences with the actual coding itself. So if you use Java, you know that the very, very first program that you ever write is going to be system.out.println hello world. That's using system.out. Those packages are not available in Android. Instead, you have logcat, which is used to display information in a terminal. Then we have swing. Swing is used in Java to make actual applications, like what you see. But in Android, we have views. So kind of just a couple of different things to think about whenever you consider that Android is Java at the foundation, but it's different. So just really quick, Dalvik was before Android runtime. Now we have a new one. And some of the improvements are just it has ahead of time compilation, which it has better performance, and the install time is a little bit better. The garbage collection, which Java does, it does garbage collection, so you don't have to worry about that. But Android kind of does that a little bit better than Dalvik used to do. And then some other stuff, diagnostics and stuff like that. But yeah, so just a couple of things that Android runtime is better for. All right, so okay, so now that I kind of covered this very foundation stuff, it's a little bit boring, I know. We're going to start getting into Android Studio, which is how you make the actual apps. So we're going to have the project structure, which is basically the files in Android Studio. I'm going to show you guys about the emulator, and then I'm going to show you a little bit about XML. But then we'll start making the app. So let's go ahead. Whoever's following along, now would be the perfect time to start up Android Studio. I'm hoping that it's installed properly on your machines. It can be a little bit temperamental if you haven't done it before. So just let's go ahead and get it started. So it takes a little bit. My machine is a little bit slow. It's not the best laptop, but it works. And also, just to let you guys know, I'm not mirroring my computer right now. So what's there is not here. I'm going to have to be constantly referencing over here. So if I'm not looking at you and talking this way, I apologize. But anyway, so this is your welcome screen. What you're going to want to do is we're just going to start a new Android Studio project. Of course, you can open the existing. If any of you guys are familiar with version control, like GitHub and all that, you can use that to import a project. And then you have some other options, right? But we're going to go ahead and go into start a new Android Studio project. All right. OK, so this is kind of important. It's normally you want to just fly by this, but whenever it comes time for you guys to actually make an application that you want to ship, ship means like put it on the Google Play Store. We have an application name, a company domain, and then the package name. But the package name is automatically generated depending on what you input into the application name and the company domain. All right. So the application name, you want to put some thought into it. If you're barely starting out, it doesn't matter because you're more than likely you're not going to be publishing your apps on the Play Store. But whenever it comes time and you tell yourself, you know what, I'm feeling pretty confident and I feel like I can make an app and this time I'll finish it. I can't even tell you guys how many times I started an app and never finished it with the sole intention of finishing it. It's something that you just kind of you learn, right? But anyway, so you want to name this something meaningful. I'm not planning on shipping this app, obviously, so I'm just going to go ahead and name it Code RGV Project, right? And I want you guys to notice that on the package name, in the back, you may not be able to see it. It's probably pretty dim. But anyway, it uses a reverse domain naming system, okay? And what that means is that the application name, which is sort of the front of your project, is the last thing that's put on that package name. And then we have the company domain. So if you had a company, you would want to put whatever you guys were in there. And it'll be like your package. So here we have oscar.example.com. I know that if you were to go on the Google Play Store and you were to look up an app like WhatsApp and you looked at the URL, you would see their package name, what they put for the company domain. So,
You find that where?
sorry?
You see that where?
On the URL. Like, let's say you were to go on your computer and you went to the App Store or the Google Play Store and you looked up an app. On the URL, you would see what their unique identifier is. And that's the company domain. You see, because there can be two apps with the same name on the Google Play Store. They can have the same name. There's Messenger, the Google's SMS and MMS service, which is Messenger for your phone. And then there's Facebook Messenger. But on the App Store, they have the exact same name, Messenger and Messenger. So how do you identify through Google if you're unique, right? Well, your unique identifier is going to be your company domain. So WhatsApp would probably have something like whatsapp.com. And then if you look at the package name, you see code.rgb project and then WhatsApp and then .com. That's what identifies you as a unique person. But for our example, it's not that important. You don't have to worry about it right now. Maybe down the line you want to have something. I know whenever I ship my app, I just use oscar.alexander.garcia, and that's my unique thing. So if you ever got to the point where you had like a website or a company name, you may want to use that, but it doesn't matter for now. So anyway, I'll just go back to oscar.example.com. All right, and then the project location, you can change that if you want, I believe. But anyway, let's see. I'm assuming this is the next button. Okay.
Now, on mine, on the, it says at the bottom, the application name for most apps begin with an update.
Oh, yeah, another thing. You want to start your name of your app with a capital letter. It's kind of like convention. I don't think you can start it with a number either. It has to follow a convention. They'll let you know. But yeah, if you can change that, it needs to start with a capital. All right, so we all good? We're all super excited to make an app, right? I know, I can see it. I can see it in all your faces. You guys are just like dying. You're dying to get started. I know, I'm getting there, trust me. But these are important things to consider. So the next thing after you name your app and you give it the company name is your target platform, okay? One of the really, really cool things about Android is that it runs on a lot of different things. We have, I don't even think it's here. Yeah, Android Auto is a new thing that came out where like some cars are running with Android built in, and developers can now make apps for cars, and that's really cool. But some things that you guys may be a little bit more familiar with is Android Wear. We have the smartwatches, the Galaxy whatever. Some TVs run Android. I know that Samsung has a TV that runs Android. It's super expensive. And then Google Glass, which you know is kind of like a miss, but that's another story. All right, so for a phone and a tablet, you're gonna wanna really think about what you use as your target operating system. So you can go through and you can look at all the operating systems that have been available. So we have Eclair, Froyo, Gingerbread. And the lower that you go, the farther back in time that you go for your target operating system, the more phones that you'll be able to run on. And that's important because let's say you want to run like on Marshmallow, right? And your app you only want to target Marshmallow. Well, 1.3% of all phones out there are running Marshmallow. So you probably don't want to do that. You want to go a little bit farther back because some people don't update their phones. Some people are kind of stuck like with whatever their phone came with. Some people are in countries where they just don't update their phone. Like, you don't know. So you want to be a little bit specific on how far back you go whenever you're targeting an actual operating system. So I think the one that it started with was KitKat. I don't know. What does it say on you guys?
It was ice cream sandwich.
Ice cream sandwich. Okay. All right, that's fine. All right, so now if you notice, you can run on 97% of all devices. So the lower you go, the more you target, the higher exposure that your app will get, the more likely that it'll work on all phones. Just something to consider down the line. If you guys ever want to make an app that's kind of using like cutting edge technology, something to consider.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you go too far back, though, I mean, is there going to be some kind of compatibility issues, probably?
So that's another thing to consider. You don't want to go too far back either because then you really limit yourself, and the code gets a lot more difficult because you need to be a lot more specific whenever you go back. The more recent operating systems, the code's a lot cleaner. It's a lot more supported. So don't go too far back. Don't go too far ahead. Just look at the percentage and be like, yeah, that's good for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm assuming next. Okay. So Now it tells you, okay, do you want to start with an activity? Like, do you want us to generate an activity for you to kind of like get your feet wet and get going? We have a blank activity, an empty activity, and then some other ones, but the other ones are gonna have a lot of code already generated. If you picked one of the other ones, I know a navigation drawer has like a ton of code already there, and you're gonna be like just overwhelmed. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna have an empty activity. And the empty activity is just going to give us a template under which to create our application. Okay? So let's go ahead and pick an empty activity. Let's see if I'm forgetting anything. No, that's about it.
What's the difference between a blank activity and an empty activity?
Okay, so if you see the blank activity, we have a button up here, which is like for your settings and stuff like that. And then we have this floating action button. And a floating action button is, if you use any app that's made by Google, Google follows a very, very specific guideline under how their apps look, and it's called material design. Okay? A floating action button is just one of the things that they use. If you ever use like Gmail, you'll notice that this is all of a sudden a compose button with a little pencil, and you'll make a new message or whatever. But basically, to get back to your question, a blank activity is just an activity with a couple of little things in there for you to use. The floating action button being one of them, and then we have that button on the top for the settings. And then you can fill those in with code as you see fit. But the empty activity just gives you a clean activity, just nothing on it. And that's what we need. Especially since we're getting into the fundamentals, it'll give you a really good idea of the structure of the application without being overwhelmed by code. So let's go ahead and pick an empty activity. And we're going to go ahead and name it. I like to have my main activity called main activity because that's basically the screen that users see whenever they open up your application. This will be the first one. So you're gonna you can name it whatever. Main activity is fine. And another thing is that in Android, you have two main parts of your application. You have the layout files, and then you have the Java files. You can think of the layout files as the front end of your application, like what it looks like and how it's structured. And then you can think of the Java files as sort of like the back end, what's going on in the background. So you're going to want to automatically generate a layout file. The name changes depending on what you name your activity. So for example, if I was to say first activity, it'll automatically name the layout file like reverse. I could name it first page, whatever. It'll start with activity to let you know that it's a layout file, and then it'll name it according to whatever you say. But I'll just keep it on main activity. All right, and we should be good. So go ahead and press finish. It's creating the project. And you just give it a couple seconds, it'll finish. But anyway, have I like bored you guys to death so far? You can tell me the truth. I won't get hurt. I'm here to teach you guys. That's what I'm doing. I really want you guys to to be interested in it. If I'm going too much into technicalities, that's fine. It's just kind of something that you need to have a good idea about, because whenever I started with Android, I downloaded it, I was super excited. I had a million errors because I didn't get the SDK or the JDK. And eventually it finished working, and then I didn't know what a package name was. I didn't know what to name my app because there was two fields, and I was like, why? Will it blow up? Let's see. Uh-oh. Huh. All right, so let's see. All right, so yeah, it's generating right now. It's not done. It has to generate the Gradle file, and it has to do all this stuff. So you just give it a moment, and it'll finish. It may show that you have errors, but they usually go away after a little bit, especially since I just started like a brand new project. But anyway, All right. So I'm pretty sure this is done loading. The next thing that we're going to do right now, before I keep on going, is we're going to load up the emulator. If you guys are following along, we recommended on the actual, on the page to get Genie Motion. Have you guys gotten that? Any of you guys that are following along?
I downloaded it, but it was a jar file and it didn't like install. And even on the page, it says they don't recommend. It says to use this plugin, Genymotion must be installed on your system or download and install manually the plugin. Genymotion idea plugin.jar, and then it says in parentheses, not recommended.
Well, we're not doing a plugin. We're just doing Genie Motion as an application. So if you were to go to their website, it should give you an option to download the installer, like the exe file. Yeah, just go ahead and try that. But anyway, if any of you guys haven't gotten Genie Motion, it doesn't take that long, to be honest. I think you need to like create an account and all that. But I'll go ahead and kind of show you guys the website really quick. If it decides to load, we can hope. Okay. I'll go ahead and put this on that screen in a second. All right, boom. So this is the website for Genie Motion. It's an emulator that's separate from Android Studio because Android Studio has an emulator built in, but unless your computer meets specific qualifications, it's not going to run very well. As a matter of fact, it's like a dinosaur. It's so slow. My computer right here, my computer at home, cannot run Android Studio. I mean, cannot run the emulator on Android Studio. It can, but it's just too slow. It's too slow for anything practical. So Genie Motion gives you a better option. So you can go to, let's see, I think pricing. You can get an individual license, basic, boom, it's free. It's free. You just get started, you create an account, and you can download it. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get Genie Motion started on my computer. So, all right, it's over here, click it. Just curious, have any of you guys gotten Genie Motion? No? Yes? Gotcha. All right. So, whenever you get Genie Motion, you're going to be able to create a virtual device. You won't be able to until you sign in, but so you just do that. You'll add one. You just pick whichever kind of phone that you want. The older the phone, the faster it runs. It's just kind of like a general rule. But I use a Galaxy S3 as an emulator. And what you guys need to know about an emulator is that it's a full phone. It's literally a phone on your computer. It's not just like pretending to be one. It's there. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And it's going to initialize the device, whatever. It's going to get it set up. And you're going to notice that it already has a background and stuff. That's something that I did. And that was just to show that whatever you do on your phone, on your emulator, it stays like that whenever you close it. It doesn't create a new one every time you open it. So the phone's turning on. You have a couple of general settings like to orient the phone. You can use a webcam as a camera if you want to test out an application that you're using a camera. But a lot of cool features on this. And like I said, it's literally a phone. So if I was to go here, click on Google, I could search Facebook, right? And boom, it'll give you all the options as if it was a real phone. So if you want to get out of this, you can go ahead and click here, click the home button, and you're back at your home page. You can move around the, oh shoot, okay. You can move around the widgets, get them out of there if you want. It's a full phone, basically. So we're just going to have this in the background. It's just going to be waiting. And what it's doing is it's just sitting there. And whenever you run an application on Android Studio, it's going to look for a phone. It's going to see this one, and it's going to load your application onto there. So you can go ahead and test it. And you can test it using clicks as touches. It's just you're emulating the phone, you know? So going back to the Android Studio project, this is your core code, right? So you see here it says onCreate. onCreate is the method that's called whenever you start up your application. Like whenever it hits that activity, which is this file, mainActivity.java, whenever it hits it, it's going to load the application and it's going to be created. And so the phone, the first thing it's going to look for is it's going to look for the onCreate method. And then any code that you do under there will be executed first. And there's something called an Android lifecycle. An Android lifecycle which determines what happens to an app and which methods are called whenever certain things happen. Because we all know that we can be using an application and then, oh, I need to go to Facebook real quick and answer a message. Well, what happens whenever you switch out of that application? You know, what happens whenever you decide to press the home button? What's going on in the background? You know, that's something that Android needs to take into consideration because it's not just like a regular desktop application. It's something that has to really, really consider memory. It has to consider what's going on, what happens whenever another activity is called on. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the life cycle of an app. All right, and this is really important to know. So I'm going to go ahead and go here. You can just Google Android lifecycle and you'll see what I'm talking about. But I already saved it on my bookmarks. All right, so can you guys see this? Probably not. All right, so the first thing that you'll notice is that your app will start, right? And the first method that's going to be called is onCreate. And that's the method that I was showing you. And then once that's created, it's going to go to onStart and then onResume. So it kind of follows this order whenever you first start the app. All right? And then the activity's running, you're doing all the stuff in your app. And let's say you want to change pages, right? Let's say you're on the page that's like the main page and you want to go to the next, right? Like to whatever's next in your app. Well, a new activity will be started. It'll freeze the previous, what's up?
What's the difference between onCreate and onStart?
So whenever you switch out of the activity, so I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say a login page, right? Like if you were to open up Facebook and there's your login page and you press login, it'll take you to a new page. But what happens to the one that what happens to the login page? It doesn't just disappear. It's just in a state of like if it was frozen, I think it's called, unfreeze. It'll freeze the login page, move it to the back, and it'll bring in the new activity. So if you see here, onResume is a login page. You'll be doing your stuff. You'll press a button. It'll freeze that page, okay? It'll pause it, and then it'll bring up, all right, so it'll bring up another page. And let's say you were to log out, right? And you wanted to go to back to the login page. It'll notice that the activity is back on. It'll go over here to onResume. And then it'll do it over again until you switch out to another page. I know that's a little bit weird, but I'll show you guys a little bit more about that right now. And so you asked me about onStart, right? Not onResume. Well, let's see. All right, so the activity is no longer visible. That means that it's out and it's not going to be like called upon again. Well, it'll be stopped, and then you call it again, and it'll go all the way back, and it'll restart the activity. Sorry, this is really weird, but basically we need it onCreate when it's created for the first time, and then we need onStart for whenever it started again. So you can restart that activity, and then it starts again, and it goes through the life cycle again.
Think of it if you had a car, onCreate is when you buy the car. OnStart is when you turn the key. So you only do create when you create the car, you buy the vehicle.
Exactly.
All other things you have to do at that point and only once.
OnCreate will be called whenever whenever you get out of the app and you open up another app and the memory is needed, and it just gets rid of it. whenever you open up your app again, it'll call the onCreate because it was basically destroyed. So let me just go ahead and give you guys an example about that because it's a little bit weird to explain, but anyway.
Is
So
that also when you remove the apps, now that you have like 7 apps running, and you go and
Yeah.
tell Android to just remove them?
Yep.
kill them?
See, whenever it's in the background like that, it's on stop. It's stopped. But whenever you clear it, it'll destroy it. And that's a method called onDestroy. So there's just a bunch of different methods that are called depending on what your app is doing because you're doing so many things on a phone at once and it needs to take these things into consideration. So let's do onCreate. And let's have the terminal print out a message whenever you open up your app, right? So we're going to go ahead and do something called log .d. And let me see. So if you were to press log, you may get an error, like right here, right? So it imported something for me, but let's say I didn't import it. It's red. And what it's waiting for, it's waiting for you to import the package to use the log function. So we can press Alt-Enter while you're highlighted on it. Hold on. So Alt-Enter, import class, and it'll import the class for you. So you can, so now you can use log. But anyway, log is the same thing as system.out.println or system.out.print on Java. All it does is it prints information to the console, whatever you want to print to the console so you can see what's going on. So what you need is you need an identifier, which means like a tag. So we're going to go ahead and call it my app, right? So whenever we look on the log, there's going to be a bunch of different things. And we're going to look for the tag that says my app. And then we're going to go ahead and print a message for us, right? So we can say onCreate was called, right? And so now whenever your app is opened, whenever the onCreate method is called, it'll print that out. And now we can go ahead and do some other ones too. So we can say, all right, I want to see what happens whenever the onStart is called, right? You'll do protected void onStart. And then you'll just do super.onStart. And IntelliJ, which is what Android Studio is based off of, the IntelliJ platform, it has a lot of auto-completion. Get familiar with that because it'll make your coding process a lot faster. But anyway, so it gives me a bunch of suggestions. I'll pick onStart. And then I'll do the same thing. So log.d my app. And then we'll say onStart was called. And then you can do this for everything else. So we'll just do one more. Override protected void onStop. Super.onStop. And then log.d my app and onStop was called. All right, good. So what it's going to do is it's going to be listening for these methods to be called, which was on the lifecycle. And then once they're called, it'll print something to the terminal. And so I'll show you guys that right now. So we can go ahead, and I have an error. Where's it at? Oh, thanks. All right, I was missing a semicolon. Typical mistake. But anyway, so we can go ahead and go up here on the play button, and we can run the app. Really quick, if any of you guys don't have the emulator that I was talking about, Android Studio has some built in, and you can get to those by going to the AVD manager. So the Android Virtual Device Manager. You can click on it, and it'll give you options to, I think it has one built in, and you can go ahead and start their emulator. Like I said, it's ridiculously slow unless you have the right hardware, but you can try it out. If that's all you have, you can try it out. And what's going to happen after this will be the exact same thing that'll happen if you're using this virtual device. So we'll go ahead and press play or start or whatever. If you notice, the emulator that I started is there. It recognizes it as a device. So I'll just go ahead and press OK. And you'll see down here where it says Gradle build running, it's building my app right now. And that takes a little bit, especially if you're running it for the first time, it takes a little bit. So let's go ahead and just give it some time to load up. And I'll go ahead and open my emulator in the meantime to kind of see what happens. So let's just take a look.
Do you need to have VirtualBox installed?
Yes, I think there's an installer with VirtualBox that'll. Oh man, I'm sorry. So it's still building. I think it's almost done. Like I said, it takes a long time on the first one, and then it'll speed up the next time around. So what it's going to show right now is the layout that's corresponding to the main the main activity. And that layout file is here on the XML. So, all right, if you notice, the app started. Go back to my emulator, and here it is. So, a lot of work to get to this point, but I'm explaining the general basics. So we have the name of the project, which is now on the, what is it called, like the title bar or whatever. And then we have just a general text view that says hello world. And I'll show you guys that right now. So what we've been doing, the reason that I did this, log.d, is to see the messages, right? And the reason that I put my app on the identifier, which is right here, like the label, is because you can go to that search button down there and you can type my app, right? And if you notice, the lifecycle was called in order. So onCreate was called first, and then onStart was called. And so yeah, you can see the messages that I set for whenever onCreate was called and then onStart. Anyway, so that's what's happening whenever the app is running, right? So the app is running, it's all good. Everything's cool, totally. So what'll happen if we press the home button and get out? We'll press on that. OnStop was called. So it's showing you what methods are being called whenever certain things happen. And the reason that we care about onStart and onDestroy and all those methods is that what if you're dealing with information, for example, maybe someone was filling in boxes, like text boxes on your app, and they closed out of the app real quick. If they went in, they don't want all the stuff that they typed to be gone all of a sudden. They want to see it all there again. So what you can do is you can take advantage of those methods and save all the information whenever they get out of the app. And then whenever it's started again, you load that information and put it back for them to see. So it kind of creates like a seamless experience for the user, but all that's handled through the back end from us, right? Okay, so, and then I can go ahead and open up the app again. Let's see. I can go here, press on my app, and if you noticed, onStart was called, but onCreate wasn't called. Only onStart, because it doesn't have to be created again. It's already in memory. So that's just a little example of the life cycle in the app. But, all right, it's a little bit, that's just basics. All right, so you guys saw the Hello World page. Now we're going to get into the actual layout of the app. And this is what I consider to be the interesting part. You get to create what the app looks like. So we can go to activitymain.xml. And the thing to remember is that XML files are what dictates the app, are what dictates what the app looks like. So it's rendering the layout right now. You'll see it in a second. All right, good. So if you notice, this is what we just saw. this is what's called whenever you open up your app. We have the text view, which is here, hello world, and it just shows you kind of like the hierarchy of under which like the components are placed onto the app. So if any of you guys are familiar with HTML, it's very similar. As a matter of fact, it's probably easier, in my opinion. We can go ahead. We're seeing it from an easy point of view. We can just put some text on here, like it's no big deal. You can position it with your mouse. But we don't want that. We're a little bit more hardcore. So we're going to go ahead and code it into there. Right, so we're going to code it into there. So we're going to go down here on the bottom, and we're going to go from design to text. And text will take you into the actual XML, and it'll allow you to programmatically put in your code, the components yourself. So let's click on text, and ooh, we have some code, right? Scary. HTML, what is all this? It's just, what, right? No big deal. All of this code is placed under, what in the world did I just do? All right. Right now, we have a layout that's specifying how the components are placed onto the app. Right now, it's a relative layout. So a relative layout basically means that you're placing components with respect to something, right? So let's see. This is just on the top left, which is where components start if you get some. But we're going to change this to linear layout. You have different types of layouts, but my favorite is linear layout. It kind of like, it lays things out in a line. And you specify how you want that line to be. So we can put, see, it says linear layout, but you have a bunch of different ones. So you have the one that we just saw, which was relative layout. And then we have, let's see, let me see. We have absolute layout, just different ones. But linear layout's the one that we're going to use right now because it's pretty simple, right? So we're going to go ahead and type linear layout, press enter for the auto completion. It's there, it's all good. And let's see. Okay. And so now you have some tags that specify what the app will be like, right? So we have padding, which means padding is let me see if I can describe it. So you have the background of the phone, right? Your view. We put a linear layout on top of it, and then we put padding to say, don't touch the edges this much, right? So if you see the left, it's using predefined dimensions, but we can change this to whatever we want. So let's say I wanted it to be like huge, a huge margin from the left to where it doesn't touch the side. If I was to change this to 0 dp, and dp just means digital pixels, I think. Dots per inch, that's right, okay. Dots per inch. If I change it to 0 dp, it goes straight to the side. Like it's right up on the edge. But if we were to put 30 dp, it shifts the hello world a little bit to the right. It's providing padding. I mean, if you guys are familiar with HTML, you know what it is. So we can change that to whatever we want. But we'll just keep it at the one that was already there. So horizontal margin, which I think is like 16 dp or something. But notice that hello world is just kind of like on the top left. It's positioned in the default location. Let's try to get it in the center, right? So we can go over to text view. And as you notice, if I click over here, it'll automatically highlight the text view that you're under. If I was to create a new line and type Android and then with a colon, and you can look at the whatever's automatically suggested, right? So we have a bunch of different things. We have layout margin, layout gravity. You can specify the padding that you want for that component itself. Or you can specify, like if you want the text to be all caps, or the background color of the component. But what we're looking for is we're looking for the gravity. And what gravity is it specifies how the component will be positioned in the app. So for example, we'll do layout gravity. Layout gravity means that you're doing it for that specific component, just that thing. So we're only doing it for this text view. So the layout gravity will be whatever we want. So let's change it to center, right? And if you notice, it centers it in the app. But whenever I was talking about center, I didn't want it to be in the middle of the screen, like all the way down here. I was thinking about, to the right a little bit, not down. So why did it do that? Well, a linear layout, it chooses, or you choose how you want the components to be laid out. So it's linearly, either horizontally or it's vertically. So we're going to go ahead and specify how we want it to be, okay? So we can go over here. We can do Android orientation. So what is the orientation that we want for the linear layout? Well, I already said that I wanted it to be laid out. Okay, well, all right, hold on. So in the linear layout, all right, hold on, give me 1 second. So we're going to be adding components to this, and each time we add a component, it's going to go down. So they're going to be like that. They're going to be like this. So we need it to be vertical, right? So, and if you notice, it automatically corrected the center. So if I got rid of this, it'll go back to the position that it was in. But we can go ahead and put this back in, right? And let's say, so this component is in the center, but let's say we wanted it on the bottom, right? Well, we can do that. We can go ahead and go to Android, gravity, not layout gravity, just gravity. And then we can press type bottom, right? And then it goes all the way to the bottom. Because we're telling the app, for the linear layout, as components are being added, you organize them from the bottom up, okay? But we want it to be on the top. So we're going to go ahead and change that to top. And then, of course, you can see that we have other options. But for what we need, we don't need anything more than that, right? Okay, so do we really want to print out hello world? Probably not. You want something a little bit more meaningful, right? So let's go ahead and put in a label, okay? And what we're going to do right now is we're going to make the app to where it tells you to insert your name, and then it tells you it gives you a box to type your name into, and then it'll give you a button to go to the next page, okay? So here we have our text view. It says hello world. We don't want that. So let's change this to something else, right? So we'll say, hello, please enter your name, right? And then it changes. But if you notice, it's highlighted yellow. And it's highlighted yellow for a really good reason. It's that if you're creating an application, what happens whenever you want to ship your app into Brazil or like Mexico, right? Or Italy or whatever? They have different languages. So you don't want to be hard coding strings into your app. What you want to do is you want to reference them from another file so that if you ever needed to have translations done, you could just tell someone, hey, translate this long list of words or strings and give it back to me. And so if I was to deploy my app in another location, I could just input that list of translated strings. So where do all these strings come from, right? I can go ahead and go to the resources file. I can go to the values directory, and then down here we have a strings.xml file, okay? And I mean, I'm sure you guys are familiar with what strings are. Strings are just words. It's just a word, words. It's just a series of characters, if any of you guys are unfamiliar. So we're going to create some strings, right? So if any of you guys are familiar with HTML, you'll know that you can put a comment like this. Or I think it's like this, but it's similar, right?
Exclamation point, dash, dash.
Yeah, yeah. So you can do comments like this. So we'll say, these are the strings for the main page, right? And documenting your code is incredibly important. If you guys work in a professional environment, you need to document your code because it's a nightmare whenever you want to go back to it later on. Or other people, like in 5 years, want to see your code and they're like, what are they doing? You want to put comments everywhere. Just general, rule of thumb. Anyway, so let's define a string, right? We'll say string. What do we want to call it? We'll call it welcome message, right? So we'll say the name is equal to welcome message. We'll close that. It'll automatically generate the end snippet. And then, all right, so what do we want the string to be? OK, so hello, please insert your name, right? Great. OK, now we have a string resource. So let's go back to the activity main XML file. And we can change this out. So instead of having a hard-coded string, we can just reference it from that strings file. So we'll say @string. And if you notice, it automatically recommends the welcome message that I had typed. So we'll put welcome message, press enter, and then the text is the exact same because it's referencing that file. So if I was to go back to the strings file, and just to let you know, IntelliJ has this really cool hotkey where you can just press shift twice, and it'll ask you which file you want to go to. So I'll just go back to strings.xml, and boom, I'm back. So it was referencing that resource. So I can change it to anything else. Hello. Oh my God. OK. Hello. I just changed this string, right? And we'll go back to the activity main.xml. And hello, I just changed this string. So it's all there. Anyway, let's go back and change it to what it originally was. Strings.xml. What's up?
So this is all supposed to be helping with like internationalization?
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you organize your different languages, and have you ever seen a string XML file?
What I believe, I've never localized my app to other languages, but what I believe is that you create distributions of your app just under different languages. Like if you were to go to the Google Play Store and you were to look up an app, you'll notice that it says EN-US, so English, right? I think if you're in another country, it'll look to see if you have your app in another language. And all it really takes is just swapping out that file, that one string file. I've never done it myself, so I can't say for sure, but that's what I think. And if it's not like that, then it's probably something that's not very difficult. It's probably just a couple of Google searches and you're good. But anyway, does that answer your question? I mean, it's pretty much around that that line. So
I think as well that you create another resource folder with EN and then
yeah, there you go.
ES and so forth.
I think that's
And
what you do.
It overrides it basically by default, based off of the user input.
If you click on open editor right there,
Oh, look, yeah, edit translation for all locales.
and then you click on the little globe.
Where's that?
Left side.
Oh, shoot. This?
To the right one more.
Ah, okay. So, okay. There you go.
It should create another string topic for you.
Well, if that's what you want to do, that's what you do. I'm not going to translate it to like, Korean or something. Not yet. Maybe down the line, whenever I create like the best tutorial in the world, I'll translate it, but not right now. But anyway, thank you for inputting. Who said that? Okay, there you go. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I'll just close that. All right, anyway, we're back to where we started, right? So let's go back to the activity main.xml. All right, so here we go. Please enter your name. All right, great. Now let's add another component to our page, right? Let's add a text field where you can input text, right? So we'll go ahead and go under the text view, which is under the parent of linear layout. We don't want to go outside of linear layout. We want everything to be inside. So yeah, so we'll go edit text. An edit text view is what you use if you want to input text into your application. So edit text. What do we want the width to be? Well, let's just make it fill up the entire app, the width of the text box, right? So let's just go to match parent, and it'll match whatever it's under, the parent resource that it's under. So match parent. And then we need to specify the height. Let's just say wrap content. Wrap content just basically makes it as high as it needs to be. It makes it as tall as it needs to be, and you don't have to really worry about it. So we'll just do wrap content. I don't think it did it. I don't know why. Wrap content. There we go. All right. And there we go. We have a text box, right? It's just empty. It doesn't say anything. So let's go ahead and put some text in there, some predetermined text so that people can know what the box is for, right? So we're going to go to Android, and then we'll put hint. And a hint is just, it's like a grayed out word that says, kind of like, it gives you an idea of what the box is for. So you can say, enter name, right? Boom. There it is. And it's going to give me the same warning. You should not just use hard-coded strings. You should reference the file. I'm not going to do that for every single thing that I type in just for the sake of like time. But you should always, always consider using a resource file for your strings. It's just what the best practice is for. So, all right. So we have this, which is great. And then let's create a button, okay? So we can go button. How wide do we want it to be? We'll just make it as wide as it needs to be. So we'll say wrap content. The height, again, wrap content. You don't want to match the parent or else you have like a massive button. And so if you notice, it's oriented to the left from the start position. So we want it to be in the center. So what do? We do the same thing that we did for the text view, which is we go down here, Android, and then layout gravity. We want it to gravitate towards the center. And there it is. But it doesn't have any text in it. It's just an empty button. So we're going to put some text in there. So
those options are available through the editor that we were showing before, right? Visual drag and drop?
Oh yeah, the visual drag and drop. You can do all this through the drag and drop, yes. I've actually never used it. I'll show you right now. Hold on.
That's all right.
Android text. So you want to set the text, and then we'll type submit, right? So it's a submit button. One thing that you want to notice is that the text in the button is all capitalized. I hate that. I think it's super ugly. So I'm gonna go ahead and specify that I don't want it to be all capitalized. So we'll Android text all caps, and then you'll just put false. And then now it's properly capitalized, or not capitalized. So just to kind of reiterate over what we've been doing so far, there's a lot of auto-completion for XML, a lot of it, so use it. And everything is ordered hierarchically, anyway. So we have our linear layout, which covers the entire page. And then we have components inside of it, which is our text view, which is the words on the top. And then we have our edit text, and then we have our button. So we've been doing all this. Let's go ahead and run the app and just see what happens, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pick my emulator. You can also use your phone, by the way. If you have an Android phone, you can just plug it in. You have to have developer mode on. And to do that, you have to go to the settings and like tap something a lot of times. It's like a secret thing. If you want to know how to do it, just Google it. How to enable developer mode on an Android phone. It's pretty much the same. I think you tap on your version number or something, or that's like a little Easter egg. But anyway, that's what you want to do. So my app is running on my emulator. OnCreate was called. OnStart was called. And there we go. Look, it's working. Nothing happens when I click the button for a good reason. Do you have a question? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. And if we wanted to input some text into here, we just type, oh, my name's Oscar. Great, right? And if we were to get rid of this text, the hint would come up again. So that's just user interface. You're making it intuitive for users so that they know what's going on. So, all right, so that's great. We have these components on our app, but nothing's happening, right? Nothing is really, we click the button, but nothing's being triggered. We type the message, but nothing's being saved. So what do we do? Well, you can specify what happens whenever you engage with these components through the Java file. So it goes back to the front-end, back-end aspect of Android programming. Right now we were doing the front-end, but nothing's happening because it's just front-end. So we're going to do some back-end right now. So I'll go ahead and minimize this. OK. All right, so let's go to the main activity.java file. All right. OK. So really quick, we're going to go back. One more thing is that you want to specify what happens whenever you click on the component. So let's go to the button, and we'll create a new thing called Android on click. And this is really important, and it's really useful. So we're just going to say something, right? So whenever you click the button, the on click will look for a function, OK? And we're going to call it something. We're going to say submit pressed, OK? So submit pressed. So now every time the button is clicked, it's going to look for that method. So we're going to go back to our back end. We can go ahead and get rid of all this. We don't really need it. We only need the onCreate. What? Oh. We only need the onCreate. But we're going to go ahead and define a function called button pressed. Was that what I called it? Submit pressed. There you go. OK. So we're going to go public void submit pressed. And it only takes one parameter, and that's view. And of course, whatever you want the local variable to be called, which I'll just call it view, lowercase. It's giving me an error that says I need to import something. Just press Alt, Enter, and it's imported. We're all good. So if you notice over here, we have the view imported. So now, what are we going to do whenever the button is pressed, right? We need some sort of verification that the button was pressed. So let's see. Give me 1 second. All right. So we're going to make something called a toast. You guys probably aren't familiar with that. In Android, a toast is just a little message that pops up for a short period of time, and then it goes away. So we can create one of those by typing toast, and it's already there. And we'll just give it a local name, toasts equals new toast. And OK, so we have a toast, right? OK. And now we will say, let me see, I think I did this right. Make text. And now it just has a couple of parameters that you need to fill in. One is the context of the application that you're working with. Normally, you can just say this, which I don't think works in this. Oh, no, it does. So it's basically saying, like, give me the context of whatever page I'm on. Just give it to me. So the toast can know where to put the message. And then we'll give it a little message. So we'll say the submit button was pressed. And then we'll specify how long we want the message to come out for. So we'll just, toast already has some times built in. So we'll just say length long, right? So it'll come out. There's length short, whatever you want. So let's see. I don't know what this is. Hold on. Oh, we can just go ahead and over here, right? Yeah. Okay. So you can just reference it because it's a static variable, so you can just call the class and then implement onto it. So we'll just say toast equals this. We're telling it, okay, whenever somebody picks the toast, we want this message to come out. And now all we need to do is say, so whenever the button is pressed, we initialize that toast button, and we'll say toast.show. So it'll show it. So let's run it and see what it looks like. Toast, by the way, is a really good example, is a really good way to like give the user some verification about something. Maybe their login was wrong or something like that. But you'll see what I'm talking about. So give it a second. Okay. So nothing is happening whenever you type into here. It doesn't matter. But what happens whenever we click on the submit button? Well, we made it pop up a toast. And so it'll go away after a small amount of time. So that's what the toast does. So now we have some verification that the button was pressed. That's basically what it was for. So let's go ahead and do something else. So the submit button works. It's still not doing anything. But let's go ahead and do something cool where whatever name was typed in, it'll show on the toast. Okay? So let's go ahead and get out of this, minimize this. And so we're going to want to reference that text box that we typed into programmatically. So what we need to do is give the app a way to know what that was called. So we're going to go back to the XML file. We're going to go to the edit text, and we're going to give it an ID that can be referenced through the code. So we're going to say Android ID is equal to @ +ID / and then we'll give it a name. So we'll say text input, right? And boom. What it's doing right here is it's creating a variable called text input, which is really just an integer with the name text input that references the edit text. So now in our actual Java code, we can reference the edit text and get text from it. So let's go back to the main activity. And before we call the toast, let's go ahead and get that variable. So let's go ahead and get that text, right? So we'll go ahead and say edit text. We'll initialize it. So edit text, and then we'll just say name input, right, is equal to, and this is a little bit different. You have to specify what the component was, edit text inside the parentheses, and then you'll find a view by its ID. So we're going to go r.id. And then if you notice here, text input, which was the name that we called it, is now available for reference. So we'll do text input, boom. So now we can get stuff, or we can put stuff in to the edit text through this variable that we created. But what we want to do is we just want to get the text and print it out, right? So on our message over here, we can go ahead and get rid of this string. And so what do we want? We want the name and then maybe some text after that. So we'll say name input get text. But it's not giving you the text in a string. So we need to go ahead and just call the toString method. And then we'll add on a little bit at the end. We'll say the name was called, right, or was saved, okay? All right, we'll just say was referenced because it wasn't saved, it was just referenced. So let's run our application, run my emulator, and wait. Okay. So just give it a second and it'll load.
What type of variable is passed back to get the string? Is it an integer or is it?
It's a string.
ASCII string?
Yeah, it's just a string, just a general like if you were to make a string variable, whatever.
But you're having to do a toString on it.
Right. Oh.
Type and giving you an object, or is it passing back and you have to
Let's see. I know it's something weird. And another thing about IntelliJ is that you can see what your variables are. So input dot get text. Okay, and it's an editable. Yeah. So you can call other functions on top of that, whatever you want to do. But we just want the text in its raw form, so we just say toString. All right, so good. We'll go back to the emulator, and let's type Oscar, right? Which is my name. Press submit, and Oscar was referenced. So now we're basically talking to the front end of the application, and we're getting stuff from it, right? So let's go ahead and do a little bit more, okay? And we'll pass this data along to another activity. So whenever you press the submit button, a new activity will be called, and that data will be passed into it, okay? That's our next goal. So let's get out of this. And what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna want a whole new activity, okay? We don't wanna use, we'll reference this in a little bit, but we wanna create a new activity with its own XML file. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll just close these for now. And we'll go to this, this directory, our project directory with our Java file. We'll right-click it, and we'll press New, and then we'll say Activity, right? Because we want a new activity. And we're going to go ahead and just get an empty activity again. It's going to bring up this, this wizard to make a new one. We'll just say, yeah, we'll just say main activity, main 2 activities. It's the next one, right? This is fine. Generally, you want to be a little bit more specific if your app has a lot of activities, but for this example, it's fine. So as you notice, we have the same onCreate method, and we can do the same thing with onDestroy, onShow, all that, because it's a new activity. It has its own lifecycle, as we talked about before. So, and as you can see, it has its own XML file as well. Except this one doesn't have anything in it. So let's just put in a text view, and we'll call it, hold on. So text view, what is going on here? Here we go, text view. We'll just wrap the width, we'll wrap the height, and we'll set the text to be Android text is equal to, this is the second page. Boom, there it is. All right. So this is our second page, and what we're going to do right now is that we're going to say whenever the button is pressed, take me to the second page, okay? Now, so let's go back to our main activity. And whenever the submit button is pressed, we're gonna go ahead and change the page. So we're gonna append onto the method. All right, and so let's see. Dang it. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to need to use the old Google. So how are y'all liking it so far? Does it make sense so far? Is it, yeah? And I'm really trying to give you guys a very fundamental view as to how data is like passed and all this, because it's a lot of stuff to take in. But whenever you get the idea that you can reference data from the front end to the back end, then you have a whole world of opportunity. For example, let's say whenever somebody was to input text into a box, maybe you need to make a call to the internet. Use that data somehow, and then it'll return something to you, and you want to output that in a useful way to the user. Well, you need to know how to reference all this data. So, all right. So let's go ahead and try to change the activity. Let me see. Okay. So we're going to call an intent, okay? So we're going to say intent, and this is going to be our intent to change the page, basically. Intent, and then we'll just call a local variable intent is equal to new intent. The context of the application, which is just this. And then we're going to call the class that we want to change to. So we want to change to main2activity.java. So we'll just say main2activity, and then we'll just say .class. We want to change to that class, right? And then all that we have to do last is just say intent dot, what was it? Intent. What is it? Oh, start activity. Yeah. My bad. So we'll just say start activity. And as you notice, it's waiting for an intent variable. So start activity, and then we'll just say intent. So now, whenever the button is pressed, it'll create the intent to change, then it'll change, right? So let's run it. OK. And let's just wait and see what happens. So we'll say Oscar, submit, and boom, the second page is loaded. So now we have been able to successfully create a trigger that whenever the button is pressed, it'll reference the method that you had set for the onClick, and then it'll change the page. How are we doing on time? Pretty good?
It's been an hour, but if you want to maybe wrap up, or
Okay.
what do you guys think? It's up to the audience, really. Do you guys have questions?
Be brutally honest.
Huh?
Tell me the truth.
We started really late, so that's why it's mostly our fault. But you guys want to keep going, you can keep going, unless any particular questions you guys might have. At this point, you would be left to just go ahead and build, right, and then deploy it, I guess? Or
No, the last thing that I would do is just pass data from one activity to the next, and then that's pretty much it.
you guys want to figure that out? Okay.
Right. Good question. Okay. So yeah, you're right. We've been making pretty dull applications. Okay. So, okay. All right. Let's go to the first page where the button is, and I'll show you guys how to make a custom button, because the one that's there is like hideous, right? So we're gonna go ahead and go to activity main. And all right, so we have our button. It's pretty ugly, but we want something a little bit better. So we're going to create a custom button. We're going to specify how we want it to look like, right? So we'll go to our drawable directory. We'll right-click, new, and then we'll say drawable resource file. Okay? And then we'll just call it custom button.xml. It's going to be an XML file. Boom. And as you notice, it kind of already gives us some boilerplate code to change a little bit. And we can, let's see. So we can say there needs to be 3 fields that you need to have. So we need to have item, and then Android. Let's see, what is it? Android state pressed equals true. So this is what will happen whenever the button is pressed. And then we'll have another one called item Android state, what is it? Selected? Yeah, I think it's selected. State focused. equals true. And then we'll have another one called item Android. And then it'll just be an item, I think. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. OK. And so now what we're going to do is that whenever the button is pressed, we're going to give it a color. Whenever it's not pressed, we're going to give it another color. So let's go ahead and say that we want the color of the button to be Android color is equal to, and we'll just give it a value. So we'll say 3F51B. Oh, yeah, hold on. 3F51B. 5. And that'll give us sort of like a indigo color, right? Like purple. And we need to close it, of course. So boom. And we'll go ahead and copy this over to the other ones. Yeah. Or well, on this is only for the button. But if we wanted to change the text, you can get yourself like different fonts. There's different fonts available. I don't remember off the top of my head how to access different fonts, but let me see. Oh shoot. Oops. Anyway, so we can, if we want to change the button to what we had just defined right now, we can say Android background is equal to @drawable, which is the folder that we created, and then we'll say custom button. And now the button has changed colors, right? And it matches the header. And we can change the color of the text too. So we can say text color. And then we can just say we can just put the code for white, which I think is F, or maybe it's 0. Yeah, no, it's white. So FFF, and then we have changed the color of the button. So a lot of the components in Android are totally customizable. Whenever you scroll down and there's like a little scroll bar, you can change the way that looks. You can change a lot of things. And that's a lot of like the key to making a visually appealing application, is that you want to really, really have in mind what the user wants. And layouts is a whole other lesson in itself, because creating something that's visually appealing is probably more important than creating a functional application. You know what I mean? If Facebook or WhatsApp wasn't visually appealing, nobody would use them. So that's pretty much what you need to do. And I think I've given you guys a good rundown of Android.
Are you going to cover how to send that variable from one to the other?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. Last thing. It's how whenever you have data in one file, in one activity, and you want to move it to the next one, we'll do that right now. It's super fast, super easy. So let's go to the Java file.
Can you keep going? What I'm going to do is I'm going to come around and feed you guys.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. I feel bad that you guys haven't had a chance to go to eat. So.
Well, no, I don't want them to kill it all. So
Oh, okay.
I'm being defensive. So you guys, enjoy yourselves. Don't mind me.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get the text that we had gotten. What in the world? Oh. Let's go ahead and get the text that we had gotten, and we'll assign it to a variable. So we'll say string input text is equal to, and then whatever that was, so name input.getText.toString. And then we'll just reference the variable. So we'll say input text, and then plus All right, so boom. So now we have the string in a variable, right? So the string is now an input text. So what do we do if we want to pass it along to the next page? Well, we would whenever we initialize the intent, we're going to say intent.putExtra, and we're going to give it a keyword. So we're going to say we'll call it name, right? Name text. That'll be the keyword. And then we'll pass along the variable name text. It's the same thing. Name input. No, wait, no, name text. What is going on? Oh, input text, my bad. Input text. So the intent is wrapping up a variable that you had gotten. It's wrapping it up into your intent, and it's going to pass it along to the next one. So we have this here, and it's set. So we're going to go ahead. Did I miss something? Oh, semicolon. So we can go to the main2 activity over here, and we can get that variable. So we can say get intent, and then dot, what is it? Dot string, no, get string. Yeah, get string extra. And we'll reference that name that we gave it. So it was main activity. It was name text, that's what we called it. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to say, give me the string that was called name text. And we can go ahead and put that into its own variable. So we'll say string passed value is equal to this. And then, let's see. Let's go ahead and show it on the actual page. So let's give this an ID. So Android ID is equal to @+ID / second text view, right? Something like that. We'll go back to the Java file, and we'll say text view. Oh shoot, hold on. Text view TV is equal to text view, and then find view by ID r.id.second text view. So we got it from the actual layout, and now we're just going to set the value. So tv.setText to past value plus, oh no, we don't need to do that anymore. Back then it would give you like a big problem if you didn't put something else, but now it's fine. So basically, whenever the second page is called, it's going to get that value that we pass along, and it's going to set it to the text view that's already there. So it's no longer going to say, this is the second page. It's just going to say my name. So let's run it. And let's wait a second. All right, so we'll input my name, press submit, and boom, it's changed. And you can add as many values as you want. Like, you don't have to stop at just one. So if you were to go into, main activity, if you wanted to put extra stuff like intent.putInt, intent.put extra, you can put whatever you want. So I'll say a random word, tomato, right? Now you can reference the word tomato in the other activity. So what this means is that if you notice on put extra, there's a bunch of different types of values that you can pass along. All you have to do is just give it a name, and you can pass along whatever you want into it. So you can put in an array, an integer array, whatever. And this is good because you can use that to process data before you switch pages and then pass it along, if that makes sense. And so I think that's like the foundation of activities, is that you want to do things in the front, like on the first page, you want to process some data, or you want to take input, and then whenever you switch the page, you want to pass some data along, depending on what you did. I was kind of hoping to give you guys an example of getting images from a URL, but that's a lot. And I think that we have already covered a good amount of information. A little bit rocky, but a lot of whatever else you want to do can be found out if you just did some research. A lot of it's just trial and error, but you need to know how to word your issues. Like, for example, let's say you wanted to change the color of a background of your app, right? So let's say I go over here, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this background color. Or maybe you want a picture on the background. Like, you can change all that, but that references all these directories over here. And you can just easily change things. So like, let's say you want to change the background to a picture. You'll say Android background. Let's say your picture was under the drawable directory. You would say @drawable, and then whatever your picture was called. But we don't have any in there, so we wouldn't. Or you can just change the color. So you can say, I'll put something random, I don't know. Just some random code. Oh, look, now it's green, yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful, right? Totally pleasing on the eye. But Google gives you a really, really, really comprehensive list of colors. Let me see. Just you can Google like Google Material Design Palette, color palette. Hold on. So Google Material Design Color Palette. I think that's how you spell it. And then let's see. Hold on. And you can get all the color codes for a bunch of different colors through here. And all you have to do is just copy it and paste it where I was typing the color code. And you can really change the color of a lot of things. You can change the color of text, of backgrounds, of shadows. Like I know in the most recent Android versions of the operating systems, you can like have shadows under your stuff, under your components. But that's all stuff that can be changed over time, which we don't have. But how do you guys feel about the presentation?
I really like it that you were able to send data from one to
Right.
the other, and that was pretty good.
Yeah, I know I did that at the very end, but that is a very important thing, to be able to get data from one page to the other. But that's pretty much how you do it. You create an intent, and then you put the extra values that you want to pass on, and then you just reference them from the next one. So it's pretty simple.
I hope it doesn't take long for you to upload the code, because I didn't wrote everything.
That's a good point. You know, I could probably wrap all the code up as a project and just disperse it, like on the event page or something. But that's a question for another time, or maybe we can talk afterwards. But I won't take any more time from you guys. I feel like I really, really hope that you guys got a decent example of Android. I know it's a little bit rocky, but you know how it goes. So, what's up?
I would just suggest that people get started. Just basically download the studio, and then what resources did you use to like maybe start your own project?
So, okay, for any programming that you do in your life, it'll be like 10% coding and like 90% Googling. Google was like my life savior. StackOverflow.com, where people ask questions and stuff, has been my life for developing. But really, really, what I would really recommend to people that want to make an application, because I failed a million times before I actually stuck through with one, and I spent like 3 months making one, was identify the problem that you have, and then stop at nothing to find out how to fix it. So I was trying to figure out like, oh man, this picture is so cool, but like, how do I put it in my background and then blur it a little bit, you know? And then I don't know how to do that off the top of my head, but you go and search and you research, and there's gonna be someone who had the exact same problem who had it answered, and you can normally look at the code, you can see it, and you can understand what they were doing, and then you can implement that onto your own. And it's just a game of tackling issues. Another thing. Get familiar with GitHub if you guys are not familiar with GitHub. I use it to store my repositories, to store my code. You know, there's a bunch of different tools, but I would think that perseverance and just research is like paramount to your success. Really, really paramount, because you're gonna hit roadblocks, and there's nothing to do but just keep on tackling it on, man. And of course, there's a lot of good reading on it too. There's a lot of good books out there for Android, or really any project that you want to work on. But As far as like if you don't have an Android phone, definitely get Genie Motion because I can't stand the one that's available with Android Studio. It's good, I guess, if you have an Intel machine, but I don't. So, what's up?
Have you tried the emulator in Android Studio?
Yeah. In Android Studio?
Yeah, the one in 2.0.
Oh, in 2.0? You know, I heard it's way faster.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't think it's out yet.
Yeah, you can download like a preview.
Oh. Yeah, whenever Android Studio 2 comes out, supposedly that fixes all the problems with the emulator. But for now, Genie Motion is pretty awesome. I like it a lot.
It's very fast.
It's super fast, crazy fast.
My question about that was, can you set like breakpoints with Genie Motion and the emulator?
You know, I don't think so.
So the debug is like not quite as integrated
I
until
think ADB is in it, so it shouldn't work. Because it still is a regular phone with the connection, the ADB, the Android debug, whatever it is. But it's I would bet that it will do it all.
Basically, what I was doing for debugging was I would use the log, like a madman. Like I would just print out information, making sure everything was properly, you know, input. And you can create categories for your messages. Like you can say, this is a lifecycle, right? And then maybe you can have another one like log.d, maybe general, right? General information.
So the .d stands for?
Debug, yeah.
Right.
And then there's other ones too, like there's log.verbose, I think. There's v, there's I. If things go like horrible, there's WTF. Yeah. there's a lot of different ones. So, and all of this is meant for you to categorize your output statements. It's not like Java where you just throw everything onto the terminal. You can be very selective onto how you're checking up on your data. I'm sure there's debugging. Yeah, I mean you can step through your code. I don't exactly know about how you do it on the emulator, but the tools are there. I mean, Android Studio was picked up by Google. It is a Google thing. I know it used to be Eclipse. Eclipse was like before, kind of like the go-to. But Android Studio is just getting better. It's getting more powerful. From the time that I used it a long time ago to now, it's improved dramatically. It's just getting better. So definitely take a look into the resources that are available to you. You have all these menu items that you can look through. But other than that, it's pretty much it. Another thing that you might want to get familiar with is a manifest file. So manifest, manifest, where the heck is it? Android manifest.xml. This is kind of like it's like an overview of your project. We have one activity called main activity, and it's the one that is called whenever you launch it. But if you notice over here, we have another one called main2 activity. And this was generated whenever I created a new activity. So every time you create a new one, you can go over here and it'll give you some information. And one thing that I noticed that I hate is that this stays your project name. You can change that. So let's say whenever the second page is called, I want it to be called something else. So let's say Android label is equal to, we'll say second page, right? Second page. So that whenever you run the emulator, you can just give it a second.